What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be doing a video about the 2018 MacBook Air. It's been a while since I've done a video on this. I thought I was done making videos, but I figured, you know what? Why don't we talk about what it's like to use the 2018 MacBook Air here in 2023. So coming up here in the fall of this year, this computer will be 5 years old already. It's hard to believe that it's already been 5 years. A lot has happened in 5 years. Now, I usually try to keep Apple computers as long as I possibly can, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to keep this one after this year, and we'll talk about that one here later in the video. So why did I end up getting this computer? Well, in 2018, I had a 2011 MacBook Pro. And at the time, the MacBook Pro was still serving me very well. I still have it sitting off to the side over here of my desk, and I still use it for just random videos, kind of testing things out and all that good stuff. It still works great, but Apple had stopped supporting it with the new software. High Sierra actually got updates for several more years to come, so I could have, in theory, kept using that computer for a little bit longer, but I figured I might as well go ahead and spring for the new MacBook Air. So the MacBook Air 2018 is all new. It was completely redesigned, whole new look, different materials, and all sorts of good stuff. The specs of this computer, they were pretty interesting. So Apple decided to go with a new 1.6 gigahertz dual-core Intel Core i5 processor. So it could turbo boost up to 3.6 gigahertz. You could get it with either a 128 gig SSD or a 256, 512, or you could even go all the way up to a 1.5 terabyte SSD, which was pretty crazy. And you could also get it with either 8 or 16 gigabytes of RAM. This particular MacBook Air that I have, I decided to bump up the RAM to 16 gigabytes, and I bumped up the storage to 512 gigabytes. Now, I had a reason for doing those two things. At the time, I was in college, and I was a computer science student. I was using virtual machines for all of my projects because, of course, they're not very Mac-friendly, C++. So I wanted to bump up the RAM for the virtual machine. Also wanted to bump up the storage for the virtual machine as well, because I had a combination of a lot of YouTube videos and virtual desktops, so it was going to take up a lot of storage. You could get this MacBook in gold, silver, or space gray, and unfortunately this is when they decided to get rid of the illuminated Apple logo. Very sad, but you do have this nice black Apple logo. It's very shiny here on the back. Let's talk about the design of the MacBook Air. So like I already mentioned, this is an all new design. It's extremely lightweight. It's thinner than the first ever MacBook Air, which when you think about it is just so crazy. It is a 13.3 inch LED display. Very nice resolution on this. It's 2560 by 1600. And it looks really, really good. It's a Retina display, of course, so you can't see any of the pixels. And for a laptop screen, I think it looks pretty good. Now, of course, the newer MacBooks out there today get much brighter than this one, but this display is still very up to par. You also get the new 3rd gen Butterfly keyboard, which is a love and hate relationship with many people. And then they also got rid of the ports on the previous gen MacBook Air. So you just had the two Thunderbolt 3 ports, but at least they still included the headphone jack on the other side. Now, this computer only weighs about 2.75 pounds, and boy, you can definitely tell it. Especially when I was coming from a 2011 aluminum body MacBook Pro. That thing is like a brick compared to this computer right here. Now, I mentioned the keyboard already. The keyboard is definitely a love or hate relationship. The 3rd gen Butterfly keys, I don't really like this keyboard. I still don't like it today, and after 5 years, I have not gotten used to it yet. Of course, I use other computers during the day that have normal keyboards. They're not Macs, but they're PCs and all sorts of different keyboards and stuff like that. So This keyboard, it's too flat for me. I need a little more feel and feedback, although it's not as bad, I guess, as it could be. But Apple has, of course, fixed the butterfly keys. They've made them actually feel more. So you shouldn't have any issues going forward with butterfly keys. And I haven't had any problems with keys sticking or not functioning properly. Also on this MacBook Air, they introduced the new Force Touch trackpad. Now I guess I shouldn't say new to the MacBook Air at the time, because we didn't have this. We had the standard trackpad that we had for quite some time. So this gave you the nice large surface area on the trackpad like you do on the MacBook Pros, and it is Force Touch, so you can kind of long click on different things and all that. And as usual, Apple trackpads, I don't care what you say, they are the best in the business. They have such a good feel. It's such a good trackpad. Obviously the way it clicks and feels, it is just so cool. The Force Touch, of course, is a simulated click, so it's not an actual physical click that you get with other trackpads. Another thing I enjoy on this computer is the speakers. The speakers were very surprising to me. They sound way better than my last MacBook Pro did. And I'm sure Apple laptops today sound better than this, but this is still a really good high quality speaker setup here on this computer. Now I know some of you audiophiles might not agree with me on that, but I think it sounds pretty good, and it sounds good for what most people are going to be using this for, which is probably listening to music. Now probably the biggest question about whether or not you should still use this today is the performance. So like I mentioned, Apple released this with one processor option, the 1.6 gigahertz dual core i5 processor. Turbo boost up to 3.6, and on paper it sounds pretty good. And a lot of people were complaining about this in the beginning. I can understand why. A little tiny processor. This was the first of its kind, a new Y series chip from Intel that Apple was using. But I have to say that this processor has held up very good over time. The only issues I'm having today is when I'm trying to do VirtualBox things, and that could be because, well, we've moved on to an all-new version of VirtualBox 7. So this processor really must hate virtual machines, or VirtualBox must really hate Ventura. I'm gonna say it is that VirtualBox hates Ventura. I don't know though, because I've never had any issues with this processor over the 5 years of having this computer. Like I said earlier, I did many different virtual machines on this computer. You guys can see all the videos of the tutorials that I did with it, and they all ran flawlessly. I was even at one point when I was a student, I was actually doing Windows 10 virtual machines and creating C++ projects in Visual Studio in a virtual machine, and it was running great. So this processor has not let me down yet. I think it's just a software thing nowadays with VirtualBox and Ventura. But that's another thing to talk about, is Ventura is on this computer. I can't actually remember what came on this to begin with. I want to say maybe it was, well, I don't want to guess because you guys will butcher me in the comments, but this thing came with several versions of macOS behind Ventura, obviously. But Ventura is great. We have the latest version right now, which is actually the security rapid response update, and it's done well. No issues whatsoever with this software today, and the processor has held up. Really, the people who buy a MacBook Air are not going to need really a more powerful processor. They are going to get a MacBook Pro or a Silicon Mac or something to handle the things that they do. Really, the main thing I wanted to do on this computer was the virtual machines, and I wanted to be able to edit 4K video, and this computer does that perfectly. Now Apple optimizes their programs very, very well, so maybe that's why I can edit 4K video, but hey, I'm not complaining. I edit 4K all day long in iMovie, and it never has any issues. The battery life on this computer was also very impressive when I got it. So you got up to 12 hours of web time, 13 hours of movie playback, and all the way up to 30 days of standby time. And the battery has really held up. I could go basically all day with a full charge, and I can still pretty much do that, believe it or not, today. My battery condition actually says that it is still normal and functioning as it should. And I will go ahead and say that Apple has added in some more features here in the software. So we now have optimized battery charging as well as managed battery longevity in the settings. So that's where it reduces your maximum capacity over time. But my battery is still handling it very well. So there's really nothing to complain about. The battery life is excellent on this computer. So the last main thing here is, should you still use a 2018 MacBook Air in 2023? Well, the answer is kind of complicated. Ventura is the latest version of macOS, and yes, you can download it and use it here on your 2018 MacBook Air. My only issue is, when you look at the Ventura supported devices list and you go down to MacBook Air, you notice that the oldest MacBook Air that can run Ventura is the 13-inch from 2018, which is this one right here. Now that tells me that most likely this year, when we find out whatever the next version of macOS is, and it comes out in the fall, we're probably not going to be able to run it on this 2018 Air. And I think the main reason for that is this is an Intel-based Mac. Apple doesn't want to deal with Intel-based Macs anymore. They've basically converted almost their entire Mac lineup to their own chips. So they don't want to have to keep developing for these older MacBooks here. And you can kind of see that with a theme on some of these here. A lot of these computers are 2018, 2017, and 2019. And those are about the times that we switched over, right, to the chips. So yeah, I think that's the biggest reason why we're not going to see this computer supported further. I'm sure Ventura will obviously continue to receive security updates for another year or two, but yeah, it's really kind of sad because I buy Mac computers and I use them as long as I possibly can. I got 8, almost 9 years of use out of my MacBook Pro, so the fact that I'm kind of losing 3 or 4 years of usage because of this software thing and the chips, it is a little sad, a little annoying, especially when I paid a little too much for this computer in 2018. I think this is almost a $2,000 machine. But yeah, so should you still use it? You can still use it in 2023. You're still got the latest version of macOS, you're still receiving feature updates, software updates, security fixes, but after the fall of 2023, it's going to be kind of harder to recommend using it. Yes, you can still use it, you'll get security updates, you just won't get new feature updates. And also, I guess it is kind of probably time for me to transition over to the Apple Silicon chips, just for the channel's purpose. So yeah, those are my thoughts about it. But as far as performance goes in 2023, it's still great. It handles everything I throw at it, and that's all I need. But yeah, guys, that's everything I got for you here about the 2018 MacBook Air. Let me know what you guys think about this computer. Do you still have one? Do you actually use it? Let me know in the comments down below. But anyways, guys, that's all I got for you today on the channel. Thank you all for watching as always, and I will catch you all in the next video.